A small lion cub was cruelly rejected by its mother because of its fur, but a female dog decides to do something astonishing that surprises everyone. In the sweeping plains of the American Southwest, where the blazing sun scorches the land and long shadows stretch across the endless fields of dry grass, life unfolds under ancestral laws that govern every birth and every passing. It was against this grand backdrop that a small lion cub came into the world, his fate written in colors unlike the usual stories told of his kind. The first morning light bore witness to the birth of Leo, a cub who, from his very first breath, carried traits that set him apart. His body was undersized, his fur surprisingly pale, and when his eyes finally opened, they revealed a gentle amber shade quite different from the vibrant yellow typical of his lineage. In that crucial moment, as nature silently celebrated the arrival of new life, his mother, Scarlet, one of the most formidable lionesses in the local Big Cat Reserve, regarded him with a look of confusion and disappointment. Scarlet was notorious throughout the reserve for her fierce hunting instincts and the strong bloodline she had produced over the years. Her offspring always matured into powerful predators, upholding the formidable reputation of the sanctuary's kingly felines. But when she looked at this little creature trembling in the day's new heat, something in her recoiled. In a brusque motion, she pulled away from the cub, denying him the warmth every newborn needs to survive. "This one isn't worthy of our blood," Scarlet announced to the other lions in her enclosure, her low growl resonating with finality. "He lacks our ancestral strength. He won't make it in this place." Her rejection was swift and permanent. While the other newborns received affectionate grooming and protection, Leo was pushed to the margins of the pride, condemned to an unspoken exile from the moment his life began. The disapproving stares of the adult lions and the indifferent roughhousing from his siblings bore down on his tiny frame like the parching midday heat of the desert. That first night, the abandoned cub shivered with cold and terror beneath a scraggly, thorny bush, which offered only meager protection from the lurking dangers. His weak cries echoed into the darkness, a lament filled with the utter bewilderment of someone cast aside without even understanding why. The brilliant stars overhead were indifferent to his suffering, simply watching as he fought against abandonment, against the hunger gnawing at his tiny belly, and against the despair of not belonging anywhere. At sunrise, guided by an instinct to survive that contradicted his frail appearance, Leo began wandering beyond the enclosure's boundaries. Each unsteady step seemed like a permanent farewell to all that should have been rightfully his: care, guidance, a secure place in his own world. His small paws left barely visible marks in the dusty soil as he trudged aimlessly, in search of something he had no words to name. During that solitary trek, when the sun sat high and the heat felt almost unbearable, fate unveiled a new path. For Leo, not far from the wildlife sanctuary stood a small ranch, home to a group of dogs that had formed a close-knit pack defined by loyalty and shared affection, ties that defied the harshness of life on these arid plains. Among them was Lucy, a medium-sized dog with fur-shaded gold and white deep-set eyes, and an intuition that far exceeded any usual canine instinct. Lucy had recently lost her own pups during a difficult birth, and her body still bore signs of the painful event. Despite her loss, her heart remained open, pulsing with a capacity for love that surpassed all common sense or limits. On that fateful day, while searching for water in a meager creek trickling through the area, her keen ears picked up a faint, desperate sound emanating from a patch of dried-out shrubs. What Lucy found there challenged all natural logic. A lion cub, dehydrated, starving, trembling, his amber eyes silently begging for just one chance at survival. For an instant, they locked gazes across the invisible divide that separated predator from prey, foes by nature since time immemorial. Yet the codes of separation held no power here. What prevailed was the immediate bond between two beings marked by loss. "You're all alone, aren't you, little one?" Lucy seemed to say in that unspoken language as she cautiously inched closer to the cub. "Just like me." With the gentleness known best by those whose hearts bear deep wounds, Lucy lowered her muzzle to the small lion's scrawny frame, feeling the feverish warmth of his skin and the fragility of his bones beneath that sparse fur. A protective urge, far stronger than any convention of nature, overtook her. Without hesitation, she began licking his fur, cleansing his wounds, and soothing his sun-scorched body. Then, with tender care, she nudged him close, beneath her body, granting the shade and comfort he so desperately needed. Leo, who had come to expect nothing but rejection from a world that seemed to want him gone, blinked in astonishment at this kindness, and then gradually relaxed in relief. His tiny body eased under Lucy's care, and for the first time since he was born, he felt safe. The warmth denied him by his own kind now came from an unlikely source, bridging barriers that should have been insurmountable. All afternoon, Lucy stayed beside him, shielding him from danger and keeping a watchful eye on his every move. When the cub showed signs of thirst, Lucy led him to the creek, gently encouraging him to sip water with soft nudges. For his hunger, she regurgitated what little meat she'd eaten earlier, a normal canine behavior, yet foreign to a feline. Motivated by urgent need, Leo accepted the strange nourishment, beginning an adaptation that would deeply shape his life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the southwestern sky orange and red, Lucy made a choice that would change both their lives forever. With sure but gentle jaws, she gripped Leo by the loose skin at his nape, just as she would have carried her own pup, and began walking back toward the place she called home, a snug space in a rocky outcrop near the ranch, distant enough to be safe for them both. The journey was long and fraught with hazards. Every shadow might hide a predator, every distant rustle might signal a new threat. Lucy trod carefully, stopping often to scan her surroundings, senses on high alert. Leo, dangling from her gentle hold, remained in an instinctive state of submission, placing absolute trust in the being who, against all odds, had chosen to give him another shot at life. They arrived at the makeshift den under a sky twinkling with starlight. Lucy gently laid the cub on a bed of dry leaves she had arranged, forming a little nest that offered him warmth and protection. Then she curled up beside him, wrapping him in her body and offering not only heat, but the silent promise that from now on neither one would be alone. That first night together set the rhythm that soon became routine. Leo, still too weak to grasp how unusual his situation was, surrendered himself fully to Lucy's care. Now spared from the chill and fear, his tiny form allowed itself the luxury of a deep, healing sleep, while Lucy stayed vigil, ears tuned for suspicious sounds, body ready to defend this fragile life that had come to depend on her. Dawn brought new challenges. Foremost was how to properly feed a lion cub. Driven by maternal impulses that surpassed barriers of species, Lucy began modifying her own diet and hunting methods to meet Leo's specific needs. At first, she'd catch small rodents or birds near the ranch, tearing them into manageable bites for the cub. Leo watched her movements intently, absorbing not just food but also knowledge. His amber eyes followed Lucy's precise steps while hunting, memorizing techniques that, though different from what a lion would normally learn, proved just as effective. It was as if his young brain instinctively understood that survival hinged on adapting to this new teacher from an entirely different world. Days became weeks. Weeks slipped into months. In that time, Leo grew, not just in size but also in confidence and skill. His once frail body gradually took on the sturdy build of his species, though he retained certain unique traits. His fur, though thicker, stayed a paler shade than typical of lions, and his soft amber eyes held the same almost mystical glow that had first captivated Lucy. Their bond evolved beyond simple dependence. It became a partnership built on mutual trust, respect, and a love that defied convention. Lucy was more than a provider. She was a teacher, a guardian, a companion who showed this young lion alternative ways to navigate the complex world of the plains. "Watch how the wind moves the tall grass," she might have conveyed in her silent language, both perched atop a small ridge overlooking wide open fields. "That's how you'll know the path herds have taken." And Leo listened, not just with his ears but with every fiber of his being, absorbing that canine wisdom. Combined with his inborn feline instincts, it gave him a singular approach to survival. He tracked prey like a dog, patiently following scents, but he pounced with feline precision born of his natural heritage. A fusion, not in his body, but in his spirit and technique. Lucy also taught Leo something perhaps more critical than any hunting skill: community and connection. Slowly, she introduced him to the rest of the dogs on the ranch, who initially viewed him with mistrust, even alarm. After all, it was in their nature to fear a young lion who might one day be a formidable predator. Yet Lucy's steadfast presence, along with Leo's clear vulnerability, softened the dog's hostility, until wary acceptance shifted to curiosity, and, in time, to an unusual sort of camaraderie. Being different doesn't mean being dangerous, Lucy seemed to say to her pack, striding with quiet pride as Leo walked at her side. This little one needs us just as we rely on each other. In contrast to the rigid and often cruel hierarchy of lion prides, Leo discovered in the dogs a social structure built around cooperation and mutual support. He saw them share food in lean times, collectively care for their young, and show deference to elders for their wisdom. They valued not only brute strength but also cleverness, loyalty, and a willingness to contribute to the common good. That singular experience shaped Leo's worldview profoundly and irrevocably. In his young heart, he realized true strength is not found solely in muscle or deadly claws, but in a capacity to bond, to adapt, to find creative solutions to the endless challenges of the wild. All under the patient, loving guidance of Lucy, who watched him grow with a blend of pride and concern. For Lucy, with all her seasoned knowledge of survival on these dusty plains, understood that one day Leo might have to confront his own world, his own kind. She knew time moved quickly for lions, that before long the small cub would grow into a young adult whose instincts might lead him down a different road. This awareness added a bittersweet urgency to every lesson and moment spent together. Show him the world, she seemed to remind herself, watching Leo hone hunting techniques alongside the younger dogs. Show him every possibility before he must decide on his own path. And so she did. Together they explored every piece of territory Lucy deemed safe, from the open fields where herds of deer and wild horses roamed under the unrelenting sun, to hidden pockets of shade near small streams that still ran cool, even in the hottest season. Lucy taught Leo how to seek shelter from sudden storms, how to identify shrubs with healing properties for wounds, how to read the skies for oncoming changes in the weather. Still, the world is vast and unpredictable, and even the most careful plans can be upended by forces beyond control. One especially vivid morning, when the sky wore gentle pink and gold hues, a threat arose in the distance that challenged the fragile serenity Lucy and Leo had built. A pride of lions from another enclosure in the sprawling reserve, led by an imposing dark-maned male, arrived on the outskirts of the ranch's territory. Lucy sensed the danger before she even saw them. The distinct scent and the heavy footsteps pricked her heightened senses. In a flash, she guided Leo into a cramped hideaway among the rocks, where their scents might blend with the natural smells of the earth. From there, they watched the group approach. There were 6 lions total, a dominant male, 2 adult females, and 3 nearly adolescent cubs. They moved with the easy confidence of apex predators, muscles rippling beneath their tawny coats, eyes scanning the horizon with possessive interest. For Leo, the sight stirred a swirl of emotions: instinctive fear, natural curiosity, and a disconcerting sense of recognition, as though something in his blood responded to the presence of those who, biologically, were closer to him than anyone else in the world. "That could have been me," his heart whispered, observing the younger lions playing together, practicing hunting moves with teasing bites and soft swats. "That might have been my life." Sensing the tension in Leo's posture, Lucy pressed closer, offering her silent reassurance. "You're where you belong. You're safe." For several days, the visiting pride lingered, carving out temporary territory while they hunted and basked under the punishing sun. Lucy and Leo stayed out of sight as best they could, relocating closer to her dog pack for extra protection. Yet Leo couldn't stop looking for the newcomers, and the questions swirling in his head only grew louder. Who am I really? He seemed to wonder, watching those majestic creatures who shared his blood prowl with easy grace. Where do I fit in? It was during this period of restless doubt that the pivotal meeting occurred, one that would forever alter Leo's sense of identity. One afternoon, Leo had ventured a bit farther than usual to catch small lizards among some rocky ledges, practicing his stealth under the midday sun. Suddenly, he found himself face to face with one of the young lions from the visiting pride. Silence hung between them, weighted by mutual confusion and recognition. The young lion named Jack eyed Leo with wary curiosity. Something familiar tugged at him. This smaller, paler lion smelled like a lion but also carried an unmistakable canine scent, a puzzle that contradicted everything Jack knew. "Who are you?" Jack finally asked, posture poised between aggression and intrigue. "Why do you smell like a lion and a dog?" Leo, used to conversing mainly with Lucy and the other dogs, discovered he still held some innate feline communication. "My name is Leo," he said simply, his voice a blend of pride and uncertainty. "I live with Lucy. She's my mother." Jack's eyes narrowed at the hesitation in the word mother. "Your mother is a dog? That's impossible. You're a lion like me." "She saved me," Leo explained, his amber eyes glowing with genuine emotion. "When everyone else cast me aside, she fed me, taught me how to survive." At these words, Jack's expression shifted as though remembering a half-forgotten legend whispered around campfires under the open sky. "You're the rejected cub," he breathed, half in wonder and half in recognition. "We thought you were dead." The statement struck Leo like a set of claws to his heart, reopening wounds he'd tried to let heal under Lucy's unwavering love. "Rejected? By who?" "Scarlet," Jack replied, his tone quiet and almost pitying. "Everyone in the Big Cat program knows the story. A cub born too small and too light in color, abandoned for not meeting the standards of her royal line." The words triggered a storm inside Leo. Memories, an aching sense of cold and loneliness, the distant roar of scorn, came rushing back, suffocating in their intensity. His legs shook beneath him, the weight of revelation threatening to topple. "Him? She's my real mother?" he managed to whisper. Jack nodded solemnly, his own eyes reflecting unexpected sympathy. "Scarlet is one of the top lionesses in the eastern enclosures. Her cubs are known for their power and ferocity. But you were different." A weighty silence stretched between them, broken only by the hush of a breeze stirring the dusty grass and the faint calls of birds overhead. Leo felt caught between two worlds, one he barely remembered, and another founded on the miraculous love of a dog who had defied every natural law to save him. "Come with me," Jack offered at last, an invitation that came as a shock. "Meet the others. See your true world. Maybe they didn't accept you once, but now things have changed. You survived. That proves your strength." The suggestion hung in the air like a tangible promise. Leo felt the pull of his blood, an ancient call urging him to embrace the destiny of his species. For a moment, he pictured running alongside other lions, hunting in a team, feeling the desert sun on his fur with no fear of being hunted or shunned for being different. Yet cutting through that possibility came a vision of Lucy, her gentle eyes, unending patience, and unconditional love that had bridged species and shattered conventions. He remembered how she shared her last scrap of food in lean times, how she stayed awake all night when he was ill, how she taught him not only to survive, but also to live with empathy and wisdom. "I can't," he finally said, his voice steady, with a newfound conviction that surprised even him. "My place is with Lucy and the others. They're my family now." Jack stepped back, visibly taken aback. "You're choosing dogs over your own kind. That's unnatural." "What is natural?" Leo asked, the amber of his eyes shining with a maturity well beyond his age. "Abandoning a newborn because he's different? Or choosing to protect a life, no matter its origins?" For a moment, Jack appeared truly puzzled, as though confronted with an idea that defied every truth he'd been raised to believe. At last, with a reluctant dip of his head, part confusion, part reluctant respect, He took a few more steps back. "We'll be heading north soon, near the big river," Jack said, glancing over his shoulder. "If you change your mind, we'll be there a few more days." With that, he slipped away through the dry grass, leaving Leo alone with his tumultuous thoughts and an inescapable revelation. The young lion stood motionless for a long time, gaze fixed on the hazy horizon, where earth met sky in a shimmering line of gold. When he returned to Lucy's hiding spot, she sensed at once that something had changed. Concern filled her eyes as she moved closer to check him over. "Are you hurt?" she asked, voice edged with worry. "You look shaken." "Not in my body," he replied gravely, the weight of his discovery evident in every syllable. "I met one of them, a lion called Jack. He told me about my past, about my true mother." Lucy's posture stiffened, as though an old, unspoken fear had finally materialized. Her normally warm, unwavering eyes betrayed a moment of vulnerability. "I see," she said softly. "What else did he say?" "He said I could go with them, see my real world, meet other lions like me." An uneasy silence fell between them, broken only by their quiet breathing and distant birds calling out the day's end. Lucy's head dipped slightly, as if absorbing a blow she'd expected but still dreaded. "You should go," she said, at last, voice trembling with a painful resolve. "It's your right to know your story, your kin. I've known this day would come, little one. You don't truly belong in our world." Her gentle but heartbreaking words struck Leo like a physical force. In that instant, a sudden clarity took hold, brushing aside every doubt since meeting Jack. "No," he said firmly, pressing his still growing body against Lucy in a physical pledge of devotion. "I'm not leaving. My world is here with you, with our family. Blood might define what I am, but it doesn't define who I am." Lucy's eyes went wide in open surprise, then gleamed with an emotion she made no attempt to hide. "Are you certain? I don't want you to resent me one day, to feel I robbed you of your true nature." "My nature is what we've built together," he replied, voice strong with conviction. "What you taught me about loyalty, about defending those weaker than myself, about finding strength in differences, those things are worth more to me than any bloodline I might have come from." Lucy gazed deeply into his amber eyes, searching for hesitation or fear. She saw only unwavering resolve and genuine love. Tenderly, she licked his nose in a motherly gesture that defied all notions of species and every norm of the natural order. "Then we go on together," she declared, relief and determination mingling in her tone. "And we'll face whatever comes." What came was a trial of solidarity, unlike any they had faced before. News of a lion living among dogs, sharing territory and learning their ways, burned through the region like flames in the dry season. Word reached human hunters who saw in this rare phenomenon an opportunity for profit and spectacle. It reached other predators who perceived this interspecies alliance as a vulnerability to be exploited. And eventually, it reached Scarlet and the rest of her pride, who learned their supposedly unfit cub still lived, having taken a path no lion had ever taken before. Conflict was inevitable. One seemingly ordinary morning, Leo and Lucy came face to face with a group of lions led by an imposing female, whose gaze was cold, her stance rigid with dominance. It was Scarlet, flanked by 3 adult lionesses and 2 adolescent males standing guard at the edges. "So it's true," Scarlet said, eyeing Leo from head to toe. "My rejected cub not only survived, but disgraced himself further, living like a dog among dogs." Lucy stepped between Leo and Scarlet at once, her smaller body taut, poised to protect the lion she now considered her son, no matter the cost. "He's stronger and nobler than any lion you know," she growled. "He survived abandonment and found his own path, one of compassion and wisdom." Scarlet laughed, a low rumble of contempt that echoed through the clearing. "Compassion, wisdom? Those are the qualities of prey, not predators. A real lion pursues power, dominance, respect earned through fear. And yet here I stand," Leo said, moving up beside Lucy, his amber eyes locked on the lioness who had discarded him. "I survived without your lessons, your protection, your so-called predator's love." and I found something more valuable than fear or dominance. A true family. The desert air seemed to freeze at that unlikely confrontation between birth mother and discarded son. Scarlett's companions shifted anxiously, uneasy at the boldness of a smaller-than-average lion, and a mere dog who, by all that was natural, should have fled at the scent of such powerful adversaries. "You're a stain on our bloodline," Scarlett declared, muscles bunching under her fur as she prepared to strike. "I'll end this mistake right now." She leapt with lethal grace, the hallmark of a huntress dreaded throughout the reserve. Her claws sliced toward Leo's neck, in a precise blow meant to erase him forever. But none of them anticipated Lucy's swift reaction. She hurled herself into the lioness's path, absorbing the brunt of Scarlett's pounce. Lucy's agonized yelp tore through the plains, a cry that accused the needless cruelty, the unthinking prejudice, the ironclad laws that divided instead of uniting. Her smaller body was hurled aside by the impact, landing in a dusty heap several yards away. "Lucy!" Leo's roar burst from his throat, carrying every ounce of despair of someone watching his world collapse in a second. Without hesitation, he placed himself between Lucy's injured body and Scarlett, who was already bracing for another attack. Then the extraordinary happened. A distant howling arose, a single voice at first, then another, and another, until a chorus of canines filled the desert air with one clear message: "We are on our way, you are not alone." Lucy's dog pack, drawn by her cry of pain, raced in a close-knit formation, an unexpected sight that even made the adult lions falter. "You stand with a dog against your own species?" Scarlett demanded, outraged and perplexed, as Leo barred her path, now backed by the ring of dogs encircling him. "I stand with my family against anyone who threatens it," Leo declared with unflinching clarity. "With those who took me in when you left me for dead, who taught me real strength is found in unity, not in fear." An electric tension hung over the clearing, two factions locking eyes, fearsome apex predators on one side, used to dominating with brute force. On the other, a tight-knit community joined by loyalty and shared devotion, led by the unlikeliest pair of allies, an injured dog and a young lion who refused to abandon the one who had saved him. Lucy, nursing her wounds yet still standing, spoke the words that shattered the impasse. "There's enough room in these lands for all of us, Scarlett. We don't have to be enemies. Your cub found a different way, just as you have yours. What's so wrong with that?" Something in Lucy's soft-spoken sincerity seemed to pierce even Scarlett's hardened spirit. For a flicker of time, doubt flitted across her fierce eyes, as if she truly wondered whether, perhaps, just perhaps, there might be more than one way to exist in the wild. "A lion among dogs is unnatural," Scarlett finally said, though her tone held less venom than before. "He won't last." "Maybe not," Lucy conceded, calm despite her pain. "But he'll have truly lived, known love and given it in return. Is there a greater triumph than that?" For a long, heavy moment, no one spoke. At last, Scarlett took one step back, then another, her gaze still riveted on Leo as though trying to imprint every detail of the son who, against every probability, had not only survived, but was forging a new existence. "Stay away from our territory," she warned, now more matter-of-fact than threatening. "We won't disturb your peculiar group, but don't expect our acceptance." With that, she turned and walked away, her pride trailing behind her, casting confused looks over their shoulders. They couldn't fully grasp the sight of a lion standing guard over a dog, and canines brazenly confronting lions without wavering. Nature's laws seemed subverted by an inexplicable force they did not understand. As soon as the lions disappeared over the horizon, Lucy's trembling legs gave out, and she slumped to the ground, pain overwhelming her. Leo rushed to her side, horrified to see the deep cuts left by Scarlett's claws. "We need to take care of her," he told the other dogs, who drew close, some gently licking Lucy's wounds, others forming a protective circle. They confirmed the threat had passed, though danger seemed etched into every breeze. In the hours that followed, the entire pack took part in rescuing and healing Lucy. Some fetched herbs Lucy herself had taught them to find. others brought water, while still others patrolled the area. And at the center of it all was Leo, who refused to leave Lucy's side, applying the healing salves, offering water, whispering words of reassurance. "You risked your life for me," he murmured in a tender moment when they were alone, emotion choking his voice. "Why did you do that?" Lucy looked at him with those eyes that always seemed to peer past outward appearances, into the heart of things. "Because that's what family does, little one. We protect each other, no matter the cost." Her simple words clarified a truth Leo had sensed for some time but could finally, fully articulate. True love does not recognize boundaries of species or blood or social norms. It transcends everything, finding expression in acts of the utmost devotion. As Lucy convalesced in the ensuing days, subtle shifts rippled through this unlikely community. The dogs, who once accepted Leo mainly because Lucy insisted, now regarded him with new esteem. They had witnessed his valor, his fierce loyalty, his resolve to challenge even his own kind to shield the one who had rescued him. Slowly, Leo adopted a bigger role in protecting the group. His natural lion strength, blended with the nimble, dog-like hunting techniques, made him a formidable sentinel. At night, his roaring, fully developed despite his still smaller stature, kept at bay other predators that might pose a threat. And Lucy, seeing him step into his own as she recovered, felt pride bloom in her heart, a gift that overshadowed her physical pain. "You've become more than I ever dared hope," she said one evening, the two of them watching the desert, sunset blaze across the sky in red, orange, and gold. "You've found your own path." Leo turned his gaze to the one who'd given him a second life, a dog who defied the natural order and the world's verdicts just to offer him love. "I found it because of you," he replied softly, pressing the side of his now nearly adult frame against her. "You showed me we can decide who we are, that we aren't stuck with the identities others impose on us." Those words marked the start of a new phase in the shared life of Leo and Lucy. Their unusual bond and the triumph over expectations traveled beyond the ranch's boundary. Other abandoned or wounded animals, turned away by their own kind, found their way to this safe haven. An antelope with a twisted leg, a young coyote orphaned by hunters, even a stray puma caught outside its usual range. Under Lucy's patient guidance and Leo's determined protection, this improbable refuge became a beacon of hope in a sometimes uncaring world. A place where differences were embraced rather than shunned, where compassion replaced competition, and each life held value regardless of background or appearance. "We're building something new here," Lucy noted one day, watching the kaleidoscope of beings now calling the rocky outcrop home. "Something I don't think these plains have ever seen. We're redefining what it means to be a family," Leo agreed, his amber eyes echoing the wisdom of experiences few others could fathom. Proving their strength in diversity, not just in sameness. Seasons turned over in a steady cycle, rains that greened the land, droughts that tested everyone's endurance, star-filled nights that seemed to hold the universe's silent wisdom. Leo, no longer a cub, now boasted a mane, less lush than that of a typical adult lion, but impressive in its own right. His coat remained that lighter hue that once spelled his rejection, yet it gleamed under the sun like polished gold, a unique badge that inspired rather than marginalized. Lucy, for her part, grew older. Her once spry movements slowed, and her once brilliant coat took on strands of gray, her daily energy gradually diminishing. Still, her eyes shone with the same warm determination, the quiet insight that had touched so many lost souls. On a night, when the stars blanketed the sky like diamonds, Lucy called Leo over for a talk they both knew was coming, but neither wished to face. "My time is drawing to an end, little one," she said gently, her calm honesty conveying acceptance rather than sadness. "There's no grief in it. It's just the circle of life." Leo's heart constricted with an ache no claw could ever inflict. "I still need you," he pleaded, voice barely above a whisper. "We all do." She smiled in that way that seemed to light up the night. "Not in the same way as before," she said, certainty steadying her tone. You've become exactly who you need to be. Now others depend on you, look up to you, the way you once looked up to me. All that I am, I owe to you, persisted, pressing his muzzle softly to hers in the most intimate gesture they shared. No, Lucy whispered. I showed you one possible road, but you chose to follow it. You found the courage to define your own worth in a world that tried to deny you from the start. That strength was always inside you. Over the following weeks, Leo hardly left Lucy's side. He hunted only as much as necessary, rushing back to the den where she rested under the shelter of an old oak, a place they had claimed together in the early days. The rest of the pack also took turns looking after her, offering fresh water, small scraps of food, or simply the quiet company of friends. One especially radiant sunrise when the first sunbeams glowed pink and gold across the plains, Lucy closed her eyes for the last time. Her body gave in to the fatigue of a life lived, bravely and generously. She passed in peace with Leo at her side, their snouts gently touching in one final shared moment of solace. The morning that followed was profound, not just for Leo, but for the entire community that Lucy had helped shape. The usually bustling den was subdued for days, as though the land itself was paying respects to the dog who had defied rigid natural laws to show that love can overcome the starkest differences. Following a blend of canine customs and fresh innovations, Lucy's body was taken to a small rise overlooking the wide plains she had helped turn into a haven. Under the vast American sky, surrounded by those who loved her, she was laid to rest. You showed us that family isn't defined by blood, but by love, Leo declared, voice resonant with the majestic timbre of his species yet tremulous with genuine emotion. That courage isn't an absence of fear, but acting despite it. That being different doesn't mean being weak, but holding an untapped strength. One by one, each member of the refuge approached to say their own farewell. A bark, a purr, a moment of shared silence, forming a unique ceremony that perfectly honored Lucy's legacy, finding unity amid diversity and discovering beauty in every difference. In the weeks that followed, Leo confronted the hardest battle of his life, carrying on without the one who had been his guide, his protector, his family. Some days, grief hit like a physical blow. Some nights, the loneliness felt crushing. Yet he also felt a strong responsibility to those who depended on him now, who looked at him the way he once gazed up at Lucy, full of hope and trust. That sense of duty gradually drew him out of the shadows of sorrow. Each day he found fresh strength in recalling Lucy's example, her ability to turn adversity into opportunity, rejection into welcome, fear into connection. Time, the great healer, marched on. More seasons came and went, bringing storms and scorching heat, lush regrowth and star-studded skies enveloping the land like a quiet promise. And Leo, the lion cub once rejected but redeemed by the devotion of a dog, carried forth his mother's legacy. Under his guidance, the refuge thrived and expanded, drawing in more creatures seeking an alternative to the relentless cruelty of survival of the fittest. In time, even some younger lions, dissatisfied with the strict hierarchies of their own enclosures, arrived. With cautious curiosity, among them was Jack, the same lion who had once revealed Leo's origins. I came to see for myself what everyone's been talking about, Jack said upon their reunion. A place where predators and prey live side by side, where the strong protect the weak instead of preying on them. It's not perfect, Leo admitted, holding to the honesty he cherished above all else. But we're trying to create something different, something that honors the memory of the one who showed me. There's more than one way to exist in this world. Jack studied the eclectic mix of animals around the rocky outcrop with awe and confusion. Scarlet wouldn't believe any of this, he said at length, though she still mentions you sometimes, calls you the son who chose a strange path. A wistful smile touched Leo's lips. Tell her I'm doing fine, he said simply, that I found my place, just as she did. And so Lucy's influence lived on, carried in stories told around ranch bonfires, spread by rumors drifting from one ranch to another. reflected in the very lives of this growing community that dared to imagine a world beyond the old limitations. The tale of the abandoned lion cub rescued by a dog became a living legend, reminding all who heard it that it is often in our differences and in what others see as faults that we find our greatest strength and truest purpose. It's a story, still whispered across the plains to this day, carried on the wind that bends the tall grass and reflected in the stars shining overhead, mute, eternal witnesses to the unstoppable drama of life playing out under their steadfast glow.